Purple Line is a community podcast bringing you in-depth conversations with diverse leaders in the public and private sectors. Whether you're a student looking to gather advice or a professional tuning in for valuable resources, our dynamic programming provides inspiration and insights for all ages and backgrounds. I'm Marianne Gomez-Horta, your host of the Purple Line podcast and the CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute. Welcome. All right, Stephen Halloway. This is a really special treat. So thank you for joining us on the CHLI Purple Line podcast. Want to start off with a couple of titles, and then we're going to unpack those titles, all right? So the roles of Stephen Halloway: CHLI Senior Advisor, member of the Advisory Board to National Model United Nations, Senior Advisor at the World Bank, Director of the Center for Legislative Management at the International Law Institute, and member of the Board of International Visitors at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Wow. You're probably doing a whole bunch of other things too, but that's the short list that I have. So first of all, thank you again for being a CHLI Senior Advisor, to being especially an advisor to me all these years. Love you for it. Appreciate it. You're one of those that whenever I call you, answer the phone, so I greatly appreciate that. So let's unpack some of these titles. How did you first become even involved with CHLI?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I never do this. So to answer the question, I have to go back to my interests in the Hispanic community. And that goes back to growing up in Milwaukee. My dad was an attorney, and there were only a handful of attorneys who represented the minority community. And back when I was growing up, it was the Mexican-American community, the black community. And from an early age, I became very sensitive to those issues around the minority community and equal justice. And fast forward to my law career, and we were talking about that a bit earlier. I was in the Civil Rights Division at the U.S. Department of Justice. And part of the portfolio I had were the Voting Rights Act, enforcing the Voting Rights Act. And Title VI, which has become, Title VI is now a very famous part of the Civil Rights Act.
Right.
We enforced Title VI, but also something back in the early 70s, they had block grants to the states. Huge amounts of money would go to a state, and they would then get a chance to spend it, but they had to do it in accordance with the
certain guidelines,
guidelines and laws. And I would go in with a team of Treasury auditors, and we'd audit the books. Sometimes the auditors would come to me and say, "The city's bankrupt, let's leave town," and we would do that. Cleveland, I had to tell Kucinich, "Goodbye, Mr. Mayor, got to get out of town. I'm a GS-12. I'm not going to tell the mayor the town is bankrupt." But it also led me out to San Bernardino and Riverside counties. Back in the day, the Hispanic community was referred to as Hispanos.
Oh, right.
Chicanos was...
Chicanos was a big thing. Right? So,
Chicanos was a big... In fact, the report I read, I used Chicanos. They had complaints about San Bernardino and Riverside. And we went out. So
this is complaints about
the
city
equal access, the county,
Okay.
access to the hospital, employment, enforcement by the sheriff, everything where there was federal money. And we went in, and I was reading to you a little bit before. We were able. It was really kind of empowering, and this gets to something we'll talk about later. Why government can be a great place to be.
Right.
I'm a GS-12, a GS-13, which is like nothing in Washington.
I don't know. I don't even know what that is, so we'll come back to that one too.
I'm leading the team. It's a nothing job. I'm leading the team that sits with the mayor and the county executive and says, "If you don't do this, we're going to sue you." And they all go, "Oh, we don't want to be sued.
Right.
What do we have to do?" And they come up with the guidelines. And in particularly San Bernardino, they would arrest individuals in town, but they'd lock them up in Barstow, which is way out in the middle of no place. And when their families and lawyers went to find them, they're not here.
Really?
We can't find them.
Wow.
Well, they put them in Barstow. And so we stopped that. But as the report, and I'll leave a copy with you, we made some real progress and getting them to recognize they needed to hire more women, more Hispanics, more blacks to reflect the population.
Right, right.
I have not been back there to see whether or not, I'm sure it did.
It has.
I mean, I did the same thing in New Orleans in 75. We did a whole series of them. Fast forward to 2000, I'm with the Inter-American Development Bank. The annual meeting of the bank is in New Orleans. I come back, and all of a sudden I'm looking around, and there are all these women police officers.
Very cool.
And Hispanic police officers, and you go, yeah, well,
sometimes something to do with it.
A little bit. Fast forward, I had an opportunity to go to the Inter-American Development Bank, where I became the first chief of public information. Then I came back to the bank when Enrique Iglesias was the president.
Okay, just to make sure it's not the Enrique Iglesias that we think about, that's the singer.
No.
Right.
It
just to make sure people know that.
But Enrique had an interest in learning. He said, I'm tired of just meeting one party. I want to meet every Hispanic member of Congress. At that time, it was the Congressional Hispanic Conference,
right,
which was the organization that was the precursor to CHLI.
Right.
And we went up, and he, of course, met with the caucus, but he also really liked Ileana, and he really liked Lincoln. They were on the same page, particularly when it came to youth, into supporting youth in the region. But he built a network of 100,000 young people in the region to mentor, to train.
That's awesome.
Because he knew they were going to be the new leaders, and they were. In many countries, you had 30-year-old ministers of government.
Right.
And then he had leadership forums for them. CHLI is created, and the first two leadership forums were at the Inter-American Development Bank. The bank supported that program in its entirety.
Oh, wow, that was awesome.
Which was really quite something. And then the next two after that were at the Organization of American States.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We had talked about that.
But that's how I first met CHLI. It was before it was created, then it was created, and then supporting the youth forums.
Awesome.
And so that's what led me to CHLI.
Yeah, because you've been here. I mean, when I got to CHLI in 2011, you're like part of the furniture. Stuff we did, all the youth activity. I mean, we still do. I mean, the students always love going to the World Bank with you and learning about that. As you know, we also have had the opportunity to pull from all these different titles that you have. And so now we had an intern who was from your alma mater, and now she's part of the staff. Couldn't have done that, without you. You're always involved in little pieces of the organization.
Well,
so thank you again.
Well, you're most welcome, but it's for me, it's a labor of love, and I look at this as a responsibility. My generation didn't get it exactly right. This is the future. That you've got to get it right, and we can't help everyone. But when there are individuals who are eager and want to learn, I see it as just an obligation.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, don't complain about what's going on.
Right.
Unless you can.
Unless you're doing something. Yeah, and I think that's also, from the coaching aspect of things, as you know, in terms of the coaching and the mentoring. And I read a lot to kind of learn as well how to help the interns and the alumni. And I know we've had conversations about this before too, is that the other is being able to meet somebody where they are, right? And being able to meet college students where they are, and especially the ones who, to your point, really want to do something extra, right? Because we can't help everyone, but to meet one person where they are and help them through certain opportunities and their journey, that's contributing a lot, because a lot of us in the Hispanic community also didn't have that, right? So, as you know, my mom and dad were farm workers in Central California in Stockton. Very loving people, very focused on education for their kids, but each one of them only finished third grade, so they only know what they know, and they poured the love and the support. But I didn't have mentors growing up who could say, this is what you should do, or try this. It wasn't until one person in the camp went to college, and then he came over and knocked on the door of my mom and dad and said, can you please have Marianne join my sister to come to my Chicano graduation? And that's how I learned. Like, there's no, and so sometimes it takes that one person, but you also have to be that student at the other end that wants to get that kind of support.
Pause a little bit, because my late sister was a high school music teacher, band, and a show choir. I was watching the parade, and they had the singing sergeants.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I saw that.
Two of her former students are singing sergeants.
That's so cool.
One of the keyboard people at the Naval Academy, one of her students.
Oh.
And that's success.
Right. It is.
And she and I would talk about that aspect of success. And Chile, and I will not call people out or name names, but when you look at some of the early staff people of Chile, some of the early fellows, and where they are now, where they're senior executives in big corporations, for example, you kind of go back, you just have to smile and say, yeah, we proved what Ileana and Lincoln always believed.
Right.
We proved it.
Right. And it's still in motion, right?
And it's still in motion.
And it's just like now we've got the Global Leaders Internship Program, we have the Communications Fellowship, we have a Summer Law Fellowship Program, and then of course we have the Lincoln Diaz-Balart Public Service Fellowship. Throughout the year, sometimes we also have, program interns to help out. And it's been fun. It's been fun to see, all the students and the alumni kind of navigating the career. Again, it's kind of like when you're kind of talk about your alma maters, right? Like the first thing when, there's the new pope, the new president, the new whatever, all the alma maters are like, yeah, they came to my school, they did this here, right? So it's kind of the same thing. We're like behind the scenes cheerleaders for all the students. Kind of speaking a little bit about the students, we touched on this a little bit earlier. So, at Chile, we really, we have a unique Global Leaders Internship Program, unique in town, that the students spend 2 months on the Hill and then 2 months in a corporate setting. Share with us the importance of having that kind of a balance and how you've seen that that's helped the Chile alumni.
What makes Chile, I think, unique to other internships. I mean, for example, UW, all the universities, most universities have a Washington program.
Right.
And they have internships, and some people work on the Hill or in the administration.
Right.
But they don't get the support, guidance, and really insights that other interns get. And by that I mean, when a Chile Global Fellow walks into a congressional office, there are expectations of what you are going to do. You're not there to do the photocopying or all the other things that other interns do. Chile interns are part of the staff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we've built on that, so the experience is a lot different. But quite apart from the support and the full it's a full ride program, and none exist at all.
Yeah,
in fact, usually you have to pay. Many students still have to pay tuition. They have to do a lot of things. But what you don't get with the other programs, at least that I've seen, is the kind of ongoing involvement. We call it familia, but you're part of a team and a family as you go through the experience. And so you're able to, it's enhanced. Because if you have a problem and that happens, one of the interns came over to me, one of the fellows came over and was having trouble doing a memo for the staff director. And we had a chat about the best, well, have you asked these questions in order to get the right, to develop the memo and making sure you're getting the right information and things like that. That doesn't exist anywhere else.
No, and I think part of it too is that at least, with college students now and recent college graduates, I think they're also getting a better understanding that there needs to be more of this in-person conversations to add to what they've already done in class, and then also what they can find in the smartphone, right? I mean, part of it is we didn't grow up with a smartphone and access literally to the whole world in the palm of your hands like they do. But at the other piece of it is you also still need people to help you guide that. And I think they're seeing that, and at least with CHLI, you know, our board members, our congressional members, corporate, and even some former board members, they're still mentoring some of our alumni. You know, I've chat with other members, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I just talked to Josh," or "I just talked to Caesar," "I just talked to Mariana," and they're still in touch. And so I think that there's a different element of also the leadership in the organization that Lincoln started with Ileana and Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart, of being that family, and that the family's going to be around to help you through the good times and the bad times.
Well, and you said something that I'm going to emphasize. When you become a global fellow or an intern in the office, you're part of the family forever.
Right.
I get phone calls all the time from former fellows who are mid-career. You know, it's a lifelong commitment. It's a lifelong commitment.
It is.
And I have those relationships outside of CHLI, where I get calls from
right, and that's what we want. That's what we want. We want to be able to create that.
And the other part of it is, it doesn't matter how old you are. You're never too old to ask questions.
Oh, always.
About what's going on. My parents would look, and in that generation, you had one job, you're there for 45 years.
Oh, for a long time. Yeah.
Now it's a series of opportunities.
Right.
Which makes it exciting.
Yeah. So you said something that I want to ask you. I've got a couple other questions, but one in particular from Stephen Halloway, everything that you've done. What do you want your legacy to be? Have you thought about that?
I have to go back to what my sister and I would talk about. Marianne, you're my legacy.
Oh.
The other fellows are my legacy. And I'm not going to name all the people. The legacy are, you kind of, if you can, I don't remember the exact quote, it was Walt Whitman, but if you can really change one person's life for the better, then you've succeeded.
Yeah.
But you have to do it one person at a time.
One person at a time. And I was in a program that asked people how they measured success. And of course, typical, the revenue, the shareholder value, and a whole bunch of other things. And I said, I don't worry about that. They're like, why not? And I go, well, yeah, I mean, obviously, when I was in corporate, you kind of have to think about that. But I just kind of measure success based on the number of people who I've helped that day. I literally have a planner, as you know. I like my old school planner. And so I literally, like in that gratitude, I put down the name of the person who I felt I helped the most that day. And there are days when the most important one was me. And there's other days when it's 5 people. But that to me is really, to your point, the true measure of success. So thank you. And there's like a lot of people who I know would be thanking you now, Stephen, for your service and your help and your commitment through CHLI and through some of these other organizations that I mentioned.
But thanks you very much.
Thank you. God bless. Thanks for listening to The Purple Line. Follow us on social media at the CHLI at THECHLI. Thank you for joining us on The Purple Line.